So today Universal Audio released not one but two plugins that promise to give you this warm, saturation and retro sound to your recordings. And the best part is that one of these two plugins is entirely free for a limited time. So the two plugins are Verve Analog Machines Essentials. This has 4 different models of different machines, retro machines, and then we have the full version that includes way more models, and you get even more aggressive settings with distort, overdrive, fire and sputter. For this video I wanted the sound to speak for itself straight away. Lately I've decided to have some fun when I'm actually doing plugin videos, and for this video I decided to go and recreate from scratch Amy Winehouse's Back to Black. So I grabbed my guitar, I grabbed my bass, I played some tracks, I recorded some drums, I recorded some nice strings, and then I did a very minimal mix by adding Verve Analog Machines Essentials on every channel, and let me show you the difference. First, let's have a listen to the track on its own. Now let's turn on Verve Analog Machines. So the video is kind of done. I think the sound is right there, it speaks for itself. But no, seriously, I chose this specific song because if you want to create this kind of sound, you need to go through this analog equipment. You need to have this retro warmth and this tape sound. And actually, this is my first video that features a Universal Audio plugin. I bought my Universal Audio plugins during Black Friday because until now UAD has been banned from my studio, and I might make a video about this and explain why. But I also want to mention here the kind sponsor of this video is Plugin Boutique, and I'm very happy to work with Plugin Boutique because it's the place that I buy my own plugins as well. So let's dissect this track and let me show you what this thing can do. First, I want to start with the drums. I'm going to play the drums without Verve first, and then let's add it and see what it does. So for my drums, I have the drum bus, I have the plate reverb, the pure plate, and then I have a tambourine track, which is very important for this song, and this also has the analog machines. Let's check it out, without and with. And the very first thing that you will notice, I hope you can hear it, is the timbre and the sound of the tambourine. Now, this tambourine is very important to this track, but when I have it without Verve, see, it sounds a little bit brittle, it sounds a little bit digital, for lack of a better word. It sounds very hi-fi. So what I've done here on the tambourine, I've added the warm Verve Analog Machines, and this is the free version. I'm only showing you the free version up to this point, but I'm going to show you the full version as well. So what Universal Audio have done with Verve is they've modeled many different retro machines, preamps, tape recorders, and they've captured this analog warmth that these machines can give you. And the free version has 4 different models. You have Sweeten, you have Warm, you have Thicken, and then you have Vintagize, which is very interesting. In this case, see, so basically it takes away this edge from this tambourine. Let me solo the drums for a second. And for this one, again, I'm using the Warm algorithm. Let's change it, Sweeten. thicken. And vintagize. Now, vintagize, I can see it already working great with lo-fi, with hip-hop productions. It sounds very nice and thick, and it gives you this kind of very special sound. I love the low end for the warm algorithm. It's so good. I mean, especially for those kick drums. As you can see, I've also added this to my reverb here. So if I go here and I'm going to press listen so that we can only hear the reverb in Cubase, I'm going to show you what the warm algorithm does to the plate reverb. I mean, it changes the whole tone of the reverb, but I like that it makes it a little bit more compact. And this gives me a better support for my drums. And as you can see, you can also hear the piano because I've also sent the piano right there on this reverb. So I'm going to turn it down a little bit now again. Now, let's check what we have on the bass. For the bass, I chose the War Machine. Let's see how it sounds without. I mean, this sound is like it went through some sort of tape and a nice warm preamp. Universal Audio know very well how to create analog emulations. I've been a big fan of their preamps. I have the LA2A and, you know, I love the 1176. Let's listen to some more examples. So this, I would probably add as a parallel for this bass to add a little bit of mid-range. For this track, it doesn't need it because the bass is very kind of low-endy and very muffled. But if I wanted my bass to cut through, I would add this as a parallel channel and add the thicken because this gives me a lot of mid-range. Or the vintagize, actually. But warm, check out the warm. Okay, let's check what we have on the piano. Okay, and that's why I was so excited about this plugin. I added this to this piano. This very piano is really big sounding. I'm using the TBO Mark II piano for Halion Sonic, and what I wanted to do with this one is to give it a little bit of character, but also make it a little bit more mid-rangey, make it sound a little bit more like 60s record, so like a Motown piano. That's why I used the thicken model here, and I've dialed in the drive to the point that it barely breaks. Have a listen. But see what a difference it makes? For the guitar, I use the sweetened models. Again, adds a little bit more warmth. Let's move on to the strings. The strings is really interesting. For strings, again, I use the sweetened machine. I love what it does. It adds a nice sheen to the strings, which is exactly what I want, but also it kind of makes them a little bit smoother, like they were recorded on tape. So I'm going to activate everything now, and I'm going to show you what I have on my master bus. And on my master bus, again, I have the sweetened machine. Let's listen to it. Now let me show you a few examples of the full version. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to play the guitar here. So that's the essential, and now let me show you what I chose from the full version, and this is the overdrive model. With the full version you have the drive, you also have warble, but you also have an output control right here. To my understanding, the essential version doesn't have this. But quite honestly, the difference in volume is very minimal when it comes to what this plugin does anyway, so most of the times I don't find that I have to change the level. So let's play this guitar with the overdrive. So I like that we have the warble here as well. I mean, this gives you this kind of flutter tape sound, and the drive, I really like it. This reminds me of the sound of some really old school Beatles records. Let's try the fire. And the spotter. Let's also try the distort. And there's no way I wouldn't check Verve analog machines on my Modern 80s Kit Max. If you want to check it out, I'm going to link it down below. Sweeten. Edge. I love the warm on thicken. I mean, this is going to be very mid-rangey. Again, these are so useful for parallel. I have to say it here, it would be great if there was like a mix knob or like a parallel knob where you could inject this signal to your dry signal. That would be really, really cool. Maybe an idea for an update. Even though most of the times I like to do my parallel channel the right way, just using a send effect. Distort. If you add this really mildly, it can work really well. Let's try overdrive. So if you already have my Modern 80s Kit Max and the sources are not enough for you, this is going to work amazingly well. Let's try the full version on drums. Let's check out what happens if I drive the Verve analog machines with a pre-gain in Cubase right here. Let's see what sounds we can achieve. Again, I'm gonna say it, I say it on every video. Gain staging is so important with analog gear, with some plugins. Some plugins you have to be very careful with your gain staging. Don't go too hard into the plugin unless it can do stuff like this. So see, I wouldn't be able to drive it as hard if I didn't do my gain staging right. while I'm looking at the models, I think I'm getting a little bit of an idea on what they were modeled after. I don't think there's any published specifications about what they modeled for any of these machines, but I think the actual graphics give you a very clear idea of what it could be. I like this one. You know, sometimes I do this with my 1073 preamp. I just run it through it again, I run the bass through it again, and I just crank it up. And this sound is very, very similar to this. It's kind of like an inflatable balloon of mid-range. You know what I like? I like the fact that when you set up your drive and your warble on any one of these models, when you go back to this model, the settings are retained. That's very thoughtful. Thank you, Universal Audio. So there you go, my friends. This is Verve Analog Machines, the Essential and the Full version. I think that the Essentials, go pick it up, there's no question about it. It's a no-brainer, it's a great plugin to have in your arsenal, and if you ask me, I think the full version has some really nice tasty models for different material, different types of saturation will work in a completely different way. I'm going to leave links down below for both plugins, and if you're interested about me dissecting and showing you how I produce this track, let me know in the comments down below. If I get enough requests, I'm going to make a video like this, so you know what to do. And if you want to support the channel, you can of course use the super thanks button or check out one of my instruments, the Modern 80s Kit Max or my Apollo expansher for Patch Shop. And in the meantime, you might also want to check out this video or this video. Thank you so much, my friends. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.